but we'll start with our roll call.
Ms. Tisha, Ms. Gerald Baker, Stella Bridgman, Dr. Mary Patel, Brandon Hardin, Pastor Vincent Jones Jr., Lynn McKenzie, here, Dave Miller,
Here.
Anderson Olds, Deborah Porter, here, Dr. Pickett,
Here.
Shantae Southwood, here.
Perfect. The next thing on our agenda, if you've had a chance to review our October minutes, I would like to get a motion to approve. If there are no questions, additions or deletions, okay? So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor? And then Dee, I'm gonna turn it over to you for our staff report.
Okay, it's very short. Our Arts Pathway Grant was, all of the reporting was successfully approved by state and everything and paid out. So there's been no request for change or back and forth. So yeah, that's doing good. That was going up to Drums Up Guns Down organization. So that's all. That's it.
And just to be clear, that was a partnership grant.
Yes.
Okay. Then we'll move straight toward our official business and announcements, and I do want to start with the announcements. If any task force members have announcements to share, I'm sure you do.
Yes, I do. I'm trying to multitask, and y'all know I'm not good at that. But I would like to remind everyone about the Martin Luther King Jr. events sponsored by the Commemorative Commission. And of course, we've already had a couple of events. One was the Gallery of Arts at the Emporium on January the 3rd, January the 10th. Just this past Saturday, we had the first MLK Classic basketball game between Austin East and Fulton. And my alma mater did not win, but Fulton won the game. And but we gave out our $1,000 scholarship to our youth recipient, Anita Murphy. And so this week starts our official week of full week of events. And of course, Wednesday we will start out with the interfaith service at Mount Olive Baptist Church at 12 noon. Thursday is the Leadership Symposium in the Thomas St. Strickland luncheon, awards luncheon. Our own Dr. Craig will get an award on Thursday. And that is at 12 noon, the luncheon, and 8:30 is the Leadership Symposium. Friday is the community event sponsored by Aaertf at the Bay Cultural Center at 7. And then Saturday is our Youth Summit. If you have little ones, please bring them out from K through 12, really. So we have something for everyone. And then that's at Austin East at 8:30 a.m. And then Sunday is the Night of the Arts. Aaertf Slay will be the recipient of the Arts Award. And that will be at Community Evangelistic Church at 6 p.m. And then Monday is the memorial service with the Bishop Joseph Walker being the speaker for the memorial service, and that is at 12 noon at OBC. And our speaker for the luncheon is Dr. Mark Hill. And he's not gonna be able to get here Wednesday night, but he'll be here Thursday morning. So you are invited to everything. Everything is at no cost. So please come out and support us. Thank you.
Any other announcements? All right, so we'll go ahead and move forward with the grant recipient recommendations for our 2026 cycle. Their suggested recipients are in the meeting packet, but we can open it for discussion before a motion and a second. So are there any questions or discussion around the grant recipients?
No questions. I would just point out that as a member of the investment committee that went through it, I thought it was a really rigorous process. I really appreciate the work that staff did to help us come up with I think a very thorough and thoughtful framework. And I personally, as one of the members of the investment committee, feel great about the process that we went through and the outcome we got to, so I just want to say that.
I was also encouraged by not only the quality of the applicants, but just the type of work that's being done within the community. It's very encouraging to see, the type of work that's being done.
Yeah, agreed.
I have a question. Once awards the grants are awarded, is there any follow-up reporting that comes back to us as relates to it?
It's required, actually. Did you want to share a little bit more about the impact reports?
Yes, so on the impact report, they ask you for, what you spent your monies on, give me examples of some of like the evaluations that you did maybe for your programming, how many students or participants you worked with, what areas of Knoxville did you go in. I think other questions on there are, we share some stories and stuff like that from your programming. And then they also turn in an expenditure sheet of what exactly they spent their money on.
When do those come back?
Those this year are due October 2nd.
And also, a lot of that information, so our annual impact report, that's where we get a lot of that information, because we know that our dollars directly went to support those activities that were from our buckets from that report. But
Oh, and I also go to each of the site visits over the grant season. So I went and visited all of them.
I know that we're getting ready to vote on this. I know that, just in looking over it, there are some that, one or two that seem to be new in the scope of work that they're doing. I'd like for us maybe at some point to talk about, maybe later in the year, even if it's a Saturday event, to maybe invite them to come out and let the public to come out and let them do, maybe 10-minute presentations. Maybe have booths like a resource center to help promote the work that they're doing in the community, and maybe have it somewhere out in the community. So maybe we can entertain that at a later date. I just wanted to plant that seed.
yeah, did you have a couple that jumped out in mind that we might be able to put on the agenda, at least for us?
I think Renaissance Men is one that's fairly new, that I think helping to promote would be good.
Okay.
And maybe Freedom Village.
Oh, that's the previous schools. That's the
Maybe that's something we could consider just at these meetings too, if we've got a light agenda. It'd be a great agenda.
rotate
That's a
them,
great.
have them come and present, and we can kind of hear firsthand.
About the impact of what these grants mean
Yep.
to the organization.
So I want to thank the investment committee. I spent some time thinking about this, and I truly trust that, first of all, I trust you all, but I also trust the process that we developed with the rubric to make sure that it was fair and things were considered. I did have pause initially, and so what I'm thinking about moving forward are just suggestions when we consider, but this list looks fine to me. Some of the questions I had were based on our buckets and our goal of impacting equity for African Americans in Knoxville, what that reach was. So when we think about the program, one of the things I looked at was YMCA of East Tennessee. And I had asked, but I think they did. Did they develop a program specific to our goals and our buckets? And by them coming here, as you mentioned, that would be very clear. And so that was one. At first I was like, they get a lot of money. Why didn't so-and-so get money, right? But I do appreciate all of the time and thoughtfulness. I understand there was quite a healthy conversation and going through the rubric to land us in a place. And I'm most happy that we are able to directly send dollars to places that we know address the lack of equity or interrupts the progress of African Americans in Knoxville. So that being said, if there are no other questions or discussion, then I can entertain a motion.
Not a question.
Okay.
But I will say one of the things that was interesting was that there were, I think out of the 4 or 5 total buckets, there were some of the buckets that didn't have much in them, housing being a great example, and that's sort of one of the cornerstones. And so I do think as a task force, we ought to consider how we, and we've got some of these different subcommittees now that are working on that, so maybe that will change it. But it would be great to see more small business, more housing-related initiatives to at least consider in the future. So I'm not sure how we stimulate that, but just an observation.
I think one is we share that, right? So
Yeah.
just say, you know, at least even among us, that we noticed a gap or low applications for a certain category.
Yep.
And then throughout the year, paying attention to those that are doing the work, that especially the smaller ones, because they get so busy if they have small staff that they don't often apply for the grants or think they have time. So I think we just pay attention throughout this year and see, you know, who might.
Yep.
And so, that being said, if we can get a note next time for where we had low applications and,
Small business.
Small business.
Had one and housing had two.
okay.
Everybody else was
It's
pretty.
pretty, okay.
And there be some may also need assistance with filling out that information. So I don't know how complicated it is, but sometimes that may hinder people from filling it out too, not necessarily knowing how to go through that process.
Well, I created it, so it.
So it's
But I will say, I know like the, East Tennessee Foundation has a workshop prior to their grant cycle, so that they can answer questions and help people, at least kind of guide them. And it's a safe space because it's before the grant is due. It's open to anybody who wants to apply. And that way, if they do have questions or need assistance, we will know that.
And it also offered that, so.
Oh,
it
yeah.
opened up on it.
Along with the video.
Along
With
with
the
that, I
video.
made a video of how to do it. I also literally was like, hey, Ify, and I had some who used it with question by question.
Yeah.
And then I had a lot not use it.
So
So I
when you have other
did try, I tried all
I
the
wonder
things possible.
if they thought it was a more intimidating process
Could
than
be.
it was. Because I think we did try to find that balance in getting the information we needed to make sure there was integrity in giving out the money, but also not making it too daunting.
You know? And I also want people to learn, you know, because we can't be the only source of funding
Right.
for you.
Right.
You should learn something from our process to be able to use with other processes.
Correct.
Maybe.
If I could add to,
Yeah.
everything that Deidre just pointed out, I think we try to be very diligent about providing the support that we can, to folks and make sure that they feel that they are accessible. But I wonder, and this may be feedback from the subcommittee, I wonder, especially the areas where we saw not as many applications, if it is possible, I don't know for sure, but if it is possible that is because our application process, our grant process is really tailored toward nonprofits, and maybe there are not as many nonprofit entities serving in those areas as they are, say, education or other things. Like a lot of the entities that are serving in those areas may be for-profit entities that would not be eligible to apply unless they are partnering with a nonprofit. I'm not sure, but that's the first thing that came to my mind, is that the pool just may not be there of nonprofit entities doing that work. But I don't know that for sure.
Right,
I
right.
wanna go on the record, I don't know that for sure.
Okay, no, that's a fair
That's a very
assessment.
fair
I
point.
wonder now, not necessarily a workshop for our grant, but one in general.
Mhm.
And so that we can talk about how you can get a partnership, how you can get a fiscal agent, or how you can develop an arm of your for-profit business that actually serves as a nonprofit kind of component. Because you're right, we can't be the only funding source.
Right.
So can we help build capacity with our nonprofits so that they are willing or not intimidated to go after other grants? Anything else? Then can you get a motion to approve? So moved. We're all in.
I know. Everybody kind of chimed in.
Yeah.
Who was our motion?
Ladies first.
So,
Ms. Deb, okay, and then our second?
Second.
Second, okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, okay. So the next thing, now that we've accepted your recommendations, these will be presented in front of city council for their approval. I would encourage you all, those that can attend, to come, just to show our unified support of these recommendations. And then we're going to step into committee reports. I will say, I am so delighted at the outcome of the subcommittees and us being able to move that forward. And just to share some with committee members who aren't on a subcommittee, they started out kind of like we did, really just trying to understand their bucket and hashing out some of the barriers, but also assets in that area. They just kept whittling it down to, at this point, each group, and I believe it was 2 to 3 goals that we could focus on, and that makes it a little more manageable. As I just had some time looking back through notes and where we started, it was all a bit overwhelming when we started trying to think about the challenges, and to get to a place where we have 2 to 3, which we think are goals that we can put some momentum behind for each bucket, is great. So the discussions in our committees centered around strengthening equity and outcomes for African Americans through improved communications and trust building. We have seen over the past year what a detriment in the lack of transparency and trust can do in moving a project forward. And really, I don't know that it's miscommunication or just the way that it's communicated as far as reach. So we want to, if we can, help facilitate how we help share information. I know during the kind of scare that we had back in November around SNAP and lack of resources, people not getting paid, we were able, thanks to Dee Dee, the royal we, able to really assemble a clearinghouse of resources that was really helpful to the community. And so in thinking about that, we can continue to do things like that. A major priority is the increasing the visibility and credibility of us as a task force. Had the opportunity to recently join Renee Kessler and Gwen at the back in kind of sharing information to city council, particularly the new city council members. And in doing that, I thought, taking off the title, what is a task force, right? And I want to share this because I want to give you all some vocabulary to talk about that it is really, ideally it's actually a temporary group, but it is a group that is formed to address a problem. And basically what we do is develop strategy for that problem. That's the simple. And so the problem was identified and acknowledged through the work of Councilwoman, I'm so used to calling you Councilwoman Casey, but so to Gwen, when she brought that forward before City Council and said, okay, yes, this was a problem. There were barriers that existed, things that happened that have created this uneven, I guess, playing field. And then we thought, okay, what's the path forward? What's getting in the way? That's how we came up with the buckets. Now we're at what can we do about it? The other thought was about the $100 million investment. And so understand, it was never our job to raise money. Our job was to oversee or provide strategy and suggestions for investments from the city or grants into programs or strategies that would impact equity for African Americans. That makes sense? Because I think a lot of people are confused about that. I was about the whole, $100 million, what are you doing with it? What are we getting? Our goal is to make sure that that bucket, from wherever those sources come from, that there's investment for equity in African Americans. And so the proposed strategies emphasize leveraging existing networks, using accessible and concise content. We'll keep it simple. I really love our RAC card. Speaking of how we get that in more places, we probably should have a stack at the deck, a stack at the Y, stack at places where we frequent in some of our churches. And then coordinating our subcommittee updates to ensure information about the resources, events, opportunities reaches the community reliably and through trusted sources. So at our last subcommittee meeting, there was an event. I think it was on home ownership for those that were there. and we weren't aware. And so we want to be aware of these things. One, if we can support, that would be great if we can be visible, but also so that we can share that information. Each subcommittee identified goals, which I just spoke toward, and then actions to address systemic gaps, health efforts, focus on improving access to accurate information. And we know it is really easy to get influenced by inaccurate information now. It's like you have to check and double check and double check. But we want to make sure that if it comes from us, our reputation is such that it's trusted. So that's one piece. We want to reduce the stigma around mental health. I think there have been some strides in that, but we can't neglect it either. Expanding pathways into healthcare careers. Incidentally, I saw the largest strike, nursing strike in history that's going on right now in New York. But also I've heard locally, and you would probably be able to speak to this as far as those entering careers in healthcare, and not just the, nurses and doctors, but all the supporting careers around that. Integrating health education into trusted faith-based spaces. Those are trusted spaces. So if you can get that information at church or community center, that would be great. Our education initiatives prioritize literacy, family engagement, culturally relevant communication, and alignment with workforce pathways. So 865 Academies is really kind of the strategy or the structure for bridging education to possible careers. And I'm on that steering committee. We look at, or what I personally am interested in, is making sure that there's equity across the schools, right? So that one school doesn't have cybersecurity and the other one has hospitality. You can have all of that, but there needs to be a balance. The other thing I remember we talked about, and I've heard this since that time, I've asked people, do you know what your kindergartner is supposed to know when they go into kindergarten? Do you know what your fifth grader is supposed to know before they go into middle school? There really isn't a very clear publication on that, and I mean clear and concise like a rap card. If you give me 5, don't give me 10. I know we have standards, and there are many of them that teachers, try to follow. But I'm just, if you can just tell me the 5 things that my child needs to know before they go into the next grade, then perhaps I can help you with that. When you give me the standards, and it's well over 100, it's more than that per grade level, that's too overwhelming, right? But what if you can give me, 5 things that my child needs to know and what's expected, then we might be able to get more parents and caregivers engaged in that. So, and then particularly in high need sectors, so we've already identified some with their like healthcare, but also education. I've often heard, well, our schools need more teachers that look like them. Well, maybe we do, I wouldn't disagree, but we don't have a lot in the pool either. So how do we attract and entice people to go into those fields? Home ownership efforts aim to prevent displacement and increase housing stability through education partnerships and shared metrics to track impact. So you've probably seen the news, what's going on in Knoxville, rising cost. There was an article that came out last week. Many residents are kind of forced to look outside of the city and the county because of the competition and those moving to the area that have higher purchasing power. And so we know if you're from California, New York, some of those places, and you come to Knoxville and you sold your house for $500,000, there you can buy one here for $200,000 or $300,000, have money to spend. So that's kind of driving things. So how do we equip our residents? One, knowledge is probably the biggest thing, so that they're not displaced, and that they are encouraged to keep whatever property or homes that they have. The other one, collectively, these strategies emphasize collaboration, which is why I love the work of the subcommittees. I would encourage that we figure out how to get them to create committees, also, so we can just keep growing in capacity. These strategies emphasize also trust and accessibility as essential drivers of long-term equity and community well-being. So that's kind of the nutshell version, including my 2 cents on the subcommittees and their actions and some of the goals that they set forth and priorities for 2026. Any questions, or anybody who's on a subcommittee and I missed something that you feel like the committee needs to know that you would want to share? You all did really a remarkable job this year. It's been great. So at this time, I would like to invite Dr. Lori Sanderson, CEO and President of the Knoxville Area Urban League, to come and share with us.
Would it be any place in particular?
Oh, no, this is your house. No, but here is fine, yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Urban League. See a few of my board members here. I appreciate being invited to this meeting, and I'm glad that we can house you for your meetings and continue to look forward to doing that in the future. Well, I started in July, and very interesting and exciting opportunity for us. And I think that it couldn't come at a better time. Because when there's transition, sometimes it happens in a way that can be disruptive. But we can leverage all of the changes that are going on with the government right now and all of the ways that our community needs us so that we create opportunities rather than reacting to things that are going on in the community. We are now aligning ourselves with the needs of the community and taking time to understand that. Because it's important then to prescribe what you believe the community needs versus listening and understanding from a historical context, but also listening, again, to the needs and what the community is saying that they want. We are definitely turning our attention towards the east to make sure that all of the residents in this community know that there's a resource for them that's here, but one that's going to be addressing the needs and the shortcomings, and when they haven't been many resources, we want to definitely help to bridge that gap. So what are we doing in the future? First step is understanding where we are. So there's been a few different leaders in the last few years, so we are recreating stability and just really understanding the nature of the community, and again, how we can be of best use relative to what we can offer. We are establishing new relationships relative to funding and around programs that are needed in the community. Research opportunities. There is a document called, and it's produced by the Urban League, it's called The State of Black America. And some of the other affiliates in other states, the affiliates got together and they have like a State of Black Georgia, a State of Black Florida. Well, we're working on the State of Black Knoxville. That's a research endeavor, and that really will be the guide to all of the disparities and all of the data that we need to identify the programs that are utilized and would be necessary in this community. So that's a pretty heavy endeavor, but that's going to be a really good project that will provide benefit to all of the organizations in the community. We have been in collaboration. We're starting early collaborations with the Tennessee Titans. They want to have a bigger presence in this area, so they've approached the Tennessee Urban League affiliates so that we can talk about how they best can support us in this community, as well as healthcare partners and educational partners and legal partners. So I'm really excited about the opportunities that we have. You know, we just needed some stability. We needed things to calm down. We needed to make sure that we were aligned with the needs of the community. And then we'll be able to offer all these great programs in the upcoming years to come. It is a little bit of a slow climb. You don't really want to come in and do all these things that will, cause more trouble than it's worth, especially when you're trying to reestablish and understand the community. And you all know I'm not from this community, so it's important that I take the time to understand the community and listen to those in the community relative to what they believe has been missing and how we then can help with that. So I'm really excited about it. Every day I get more news about the collaborations that exist and the things that we can do moving forward, and just really reestablishing the Urban League as a viable and very critical, important organization in this community here in East Knoxville. So I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has them. But if not, good, then I'll take this time to talk about our breakfast.
I have a question. I know you talked about as you're working in the community to establish yourself and everything like that, you're working to really understand the voice and the needs. So I'm curious, what assessment, evaluation, what index, what things are you doing to capture those voices and to really understand the needs of where we are right now in terms of East Knoxville?
So I'm listening, for one, and I'm listening to the community leaders that say, here's where we've needed help, here's where we've not gotten help, here's where the focus should be. Because we have a community that doesn't have a strong voice right now. And they're not as engaged as they could be because they need a place to engage and they need some information. So I'd like us to be a repository for that information for the community. So moving forward, my idea is to set up monthly discussions where we invite the community in to help them unpack things like what's going on with the government, what's going on with policy, how does it affect me in my own zip code, what does this really mean? And do it in a place where we have the supports here. So I have a collaboration I'm working on with UT so that we have social workers here. A lot of these things that we watch and consume on a daily basis are overwhelming. I know you all can't stand the news, but for a half hour before you're like, oh, I can't take this. Well, when we have these discussions with the community members, we're gonna have difficult times and they're not gonna understand and they might be frustrated. So as we have these conversations, I wanna make sure that in-house, we have the support systems to help unpack these conversations and talk about them. So that's one thing I'd like to do, to empower the community so they know that when there's a vote or there's a community initiative or any engagement that needs to happen, they're informed and they're educated so that they can vote and utilize their voices appropriately. I want to make sure that we are the resource and we help to bridge the gap relative to understanding, and not in a partisan way, but in a way that educates the community and that they know that we're a vital and critical resource here in our community. But listening is key, and speaking to those community leaders up and down Magnolia and interweave throughout, I think is critically important. So, on February 11th, we're having a membership breakfast. In the past, there used to be a membership luncheon, but the focus of this breakfast is going to be a little different. Those who we really want to attend this are community members. So we'll have corporate members that buy tables, but I'd really like to see, those that have the funeral parlors and the gas stations and the other sorts in this community at that event. They're our community partners that can speak and tell us what the community members need when they visit their establishments. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? We're a partner here. We need to work with the local businesses, the other local nonprofits. So this membership breakfast will truly be about membership. The speakers will be the 3 other affiliates of the Tennessee Urban Leagues, including myself. So now there is a portfolio of Urban League leaders that can talk to you about the impact and the import of the Urban League, what we should be doing, what we can do, how they look different in other communities. And that educates the community on what the Urban League's purpose is and how we then can be of use here. So that will be the program. We'll have those speakers that will be there for you to listen to those speakers about the Urban Leagues and why is it different in Memphis, why doesn't Memphis focus on housing, and why do some of them focus on these things, and what's the impact of the Urban League in your community. I think that's a critical conversation for us to have, and I'd love to be able to engage the community members in that way. So again, if you'd like to come, there's information on the website, and I'm happy to, I have some business cards, pass them around, but if they're community members that you know about, please point them into our direction. Someone reached out to me today from one of the local churches in this community. I'm really happy about that because I want them to know that we're not this corporate entity here that doesn't reach back and doesn't understand the needs of the community. So I am from, if you can't tell, from New York City. If I say can I have some water, you typically can figure it out. But at the same time, I grew up very poor. And there have been so many organizations that I benefited from that have changed my life, like the free lunch and breakfast at the schools when schools are closed or in regular times, like in the summer. I mean, I don't know what we would have eaten had we not had those as resources. There are other organizations that help to, make sure that I had a life that I could go to college and I could do these different things. But if you don't see it, you don't know that it's possible. And there are a lot of children in this community that don't get to see certain things. They don't see them within their households, they don't see them within their communities. So we have to get them out and exposed, and we have to speak to their parents. We have to make sure that we're doing our best to educate the community and get them exposed and bought into and engaged with what's going on in the community so that they have a voice and they can get together to help us move the needle forward. So I know it sounds very aspirational, but bit by bit, we're gonna get there. But the main thing is that we're focused towards the east and the communities that are here, and we're gonna be a resource to them in the near future and hopefully forevermore. Any other questions?
So you said you still take corporate sponsorships for the
Absolutely.
tables, but you're also, so you'll sell like individual tickets to
Yes.
some of the small, are any of those scholarship or? I was just thinking when you talk about some of the smaller nonprofits or some of the smaller businesses, their ability to get tickets.
Well, what I'm doing is when the corporates buy tables, and they typically don't fill the tickets,
Yeah.
they try to find people. Well, I don't need a table full of corporate executives there at membership breakfast. So if there's a few people they want to send, that's fine, but then I'm asking them to donate the rest of those seats so we can get people from the community there.
That makes sense.
I don't need a whole table full of KUB executives. You know, the idea is to
Are
build
you
membership.
sure?
Well, and the other piece of it is, what does membership mean? Many of you are members of the Urban League, and what did you get for being a member of the Urban League, right? I'm not sure in the past, but in the future, there'll be different categories of membership. But the main thing is there needs to be value relative to your commitment in buying into the Urban League. So I'm partnering with a lot of the local businesses. So as a member of the Urban League, you'll get a discount, maybe to get your tires fixed, or you'll get a discount at the funeral parlor or at the bookstore.
I want to discount it. Well, we'll go to the funeral.
At the coffee shop, but we want to have a list that we're curating. We've worked on this already. So my IT guys has joined on. BTS phone system has joined on. There are a few others. You know, discounted ticket at the zoo, or discounted. Well, we want to have a portfolio so when you see you're a part of the Urban League, not only do you get this fancy Knoxville curated pin, specially for the Urban League here, but there's also a list of discounts that are available to you. There's also regular communication by virtue of a newsletter, so you know what's going on and what we're doing. And there's also other opportunities to liaise and participate and volunteer and help out with the Urban League. So I saw that there wasn't a lot behind that, but again, there's been a lot of transition and a lot of, you know, if you get off and people move out of roles and, you know, you lose momentum. And so we're trying to recreate that momentum and create something solid that allows for more engagement from the community and the community members and business owners and other nonprofits and leaders. And let me just speak to that while I'm on a roll here. The other nonprofits in the area, a lot of times when there's grant money, there's people that talk about competition. Well, I don't have that position with competition. It's where are we needed the most. HomeSource does a lot of things with housing, and we do some things with housing. What pieces are missing, and how can we help get traffic to HomeSource and traffic to the Urban League? But this is about the community members and what they need, not who's going to benefit most by having the people come there. They have individuals that come there that don't really want to go to HomeSource because there aren't a lot of people that look like them there and they're not comfortable. Well, come over here, and if there's a way we can connect you back to HomeSource, we'd like to do that. The main priority are meeting the needs of the people in the community. So we're not in competition. Where can we work together? What are we missing? How do we do this together so that, okay, we do this part and you do this part? The Habitat for Humanity, they have a lot of people there that have defaulted on their mortgages. Now, some of the mortgages that we've seen here, because we received a grant to assist with that, $400 a month, $470 a month, and they've been behind 10, 12 months, some of them. Well, you know that there's no couch you can sleep on for $400 a month right now. So it's important that there's some education relative to, hey, you might not be able to make this mortgage payment, but you have to pay something to show that you're committed and you understand that this is a necessary thing that you have to do. There's some clients that are over $18,000 in the hole. There's no way to get them back on track with that. And when you don't have a payment history that shows you've done anything, there's also no demonstration of a commitment that you would do that if that number was wiped out to zero. So the educational piece is big. Now, I know that with some staffing, there were some things that were missed there too, which is why it got a little bit out of control without the educational piece. But this piece is key. before you give money, before you give support, before you give any type of assistance, you have to provide the education on why you're doing it, and then the impact of what that means and how you maintain it and the importance of it. And I'm not sure, we've done a great job at doing that, but I think right now in this critical moment, housing is of key importance. And it would be terrible for someone who has a home and has a mortgage of $470 to lose that opportunity. Because we know that there's no place else, even if we were a nonprofit paying for housing for someone, we still couldn't find anything for $400 a month. So it's important that we provide a resource to educate individuals so they know how to stay in their homes, they know how to maintain them, they know about opportunities that exist to help them, but then what the responsibility would be for them to demonstrate that they are good stewards of those resources.
You said February 11th is the breakfast.
February 11th, it'll be at the UT Conference Center.
Time.
It will start at 8 o'clock. Breakfast will start at 8:30. 8 o'clock the doors will open and you can hobnob around. It's a beautiful facility. 8:30 breakfast will be served and the program starts promptly at 9 and it will be over at 10. The National Urban League Convention will be here in July. That's going to be a big deal, and I hope many of you decide to come down and to attend that event in Nashville. The call will be one of the sponsors of that event, as the other Tennessee affiliates will also be like co-hosts, for this event. But it's going to be huge, and it'll be a great opportunity for you to really see what the Urban League is doing. There's a community day, and there's also a lot of educational pieces there. And I know that the president of that Urban League wants to make it so that people can participate and not price them out of all of these great learning opportunities. So as I receive more information, I'll definitely share that with you, but it's going to be a great opportunity.
You said it's in Nashville.
It will be in Nashville in July. That's the National Urban League Conference that we have annually. Last year it was in Cleveland. Any other questions?
Well, thank you.
Did we have anyone sign up for public forum?
I did receive a late response, for Green Smith.
I think he was sitting right over
That
there.
was, okay.
No? Okay. Then, we can take a motion to adjourn. Councilman, what? Y'all had to take a second to think about it.
Well, you said it all low.
I did, my apologies. Who?
You.
Oh, the camera's still rolling. Okay, so we do have a motion to adjourn
Yes.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you all.